The Kitsune arrives in the pet shop tomorrow, and with it comes a 50% sale on all adoptions from the pet shop for the next 2 weeks. That means you can adopt the Kitsune on arrival for just 300 Robux. The following video is an interview with our animator, David Ryatta. In the first half we cover his work and inspirations, and in the second half we take a look at the development of the Kitsune and show off its animations. The opinions expressed in this interview by David are wholly his own and do not necessarily reflect the views of AdoptMe. Jesse here, video producer for AdoptMe. I'm joined today by our animator. I didn't ask you how to pronounce your last name.
I go by Ryatta.
I'm joined today by our animator, David Ryatta. Hello, David.
Hey, everyone.
David's been working with the AdoptMe team for some time. He crafts all the animations for pets before they come out. Can you tell us a bit more about exactly what it is you do? And when I say us, I mean me.
Yeah, so I generally take a pet model once it's finished and stick all the virtual bones inside it that are what allow you to animate it, make it move, do wonderful things, and then magically put it back into Roblox, and then wonder occurs as the thing moves around, hopefully correctly, which doesn't always go to plan. But most of the time it's a simple process to say. The process of doing it is a fair bit longer.
You know, we're in the same company. I see a bunch of the work that goes on. I've seen some of the technical issues that you hit having to engage working on Roblox, but it's really inspiring to see how quickly you and the rest of the team are managing to pull these together. Like, it's really exciting to watch the process happen in front of me. Let's get to our questions. What was the first pet you ever animated for AdoptMe?
It was a dog originally. That was the first one I got. I had an absolutely massive list of tricks and bits that were done for that I hope have all made it in the game in various forms over time. But that was the first one, so I always look back at that and feel like, oh, there's so many things like I'd do differently now with it, but some of the tricks and things I really like on it still.
I didn't realise it was that far back. That's quite some time you've been doing this then.
I totaled it up the other day because I saw Josh saying his 1 year anniversary, and I realised I started about a month and a half before he did.
Wow. So over a year working on animations for AdoptMe.
Yeah, so I think that's why it's so easy to look back and see how disjointed they might have been then. I was still learning Roblox. There was a lot of animation issues getting the animations from the software I work in to actually work in Roblox. We've worked all those issues out over time. So it means that every animation has become a lot more smoother. They've got a lot more improvised and a lot less fudge to get in at a last minute. The deadlines always used to be a lot quicker. Now we plan our pets out well in advance. It allows for a lot more planning into the animations.
Yeah, that's one thing we've been talking about a lot recently, is how the move away from the weekly update schedule has really allowed us to focus on quality. And I think the same is true on your end, which is great for both AdoptMe as a game and I think great for our players in the long run.
For me personally, it's always been nice to look at something and think, I've actually got time to think about how I'm going to do this. I can do a little bit of research as well, which has been something that's, especially the monkeys, I had time to actually go through and think, you know, I could try something like this or like that, and not everything we tried for it actually made it in, but we actually had time to experiment.
Can you take us through the process of creating a new animation for you?
Yeah, so primarily I use a piece of software called Maya, which is one of the big two of the animation 3D industry, up with 3D Max and Blender, which I imagine most people probably use because it's free, unlike the other two which are licensed. You've got to pay for them. The first thing I do will normally be starting off with the model that our modeler, in most cases Derek or someone else, will send me, and I'll put bones in that, which is the building blocks, as I mentioned earlier, of how the pet will move. So I make sure those joints are the equivalent of where something would move in real life. So if you put a neck joint where the neck would move from, an arm joint where that would move from, it's got to obviously be correct, otherwise your pet will do insanely crazy things. Once I've got that all set up, I'll build a set of controls on top of that so I can animate it in the way I want it to move. And then it's finding all the reference, if I need reference for what I'm planning to do. So if it was, say, a rhino or an elephant or something like that, I pull up some YouTube footage of those animals. If it's something a little bit more crazy like the monkey and I think I want to do some funny dances or something, no, I try and find some reference that matches that. So I looked at some Michael Jackson dance videos for the business monkey, obviously a few versions of the Monkey King for the Monkey King animations, and anything else that I think might be a bit of fun. Then it's the actual animation time, which in most cases I can spend between an hour and upwards of maybe 10 hours on some animations if they've been really long. We don't want obviously massively long animations for the runs or the idols, but like some of the tricks have gone on now plus 7-8 seconds, so they can take a lot of time to animate, especially when it comes to the cleanup later. I could bore you with the process of getting it into Roblox. It used to be a lot of plugins were required to get data out of Roblox, but now we actually do it all externally, put it through Maya and then import it into Roblox, which makes the process a lot easier than it used to be. There's still a lot of handicaps to work around, but you just learn them as you go along.
That's really cool. I want to linger a bit on some of your inspirations, because you very rightly called me out on Twitter with the monkey video.
Yes. I don't expect everyone to get my inspirations for things, but I have a very odd area of likes that I pull my ideas from.
So can you tell us a bit more about those? You have the obvious ones where you'll go on YouTube and look at the animal and how the animal in real life moves, but now that we're able to be a bit more complex with the animations, we have like the juggling for the turtle, all the different monkey animations. Are there any specific pieces of media or other animators that you really try and draw from?
With most of the tricks, it tends to pull from Japanese sci-fi shows would be my main interest. So I grew up on Power Rangers, which translated into Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, Ultraman. The non-anime aspect, although I do love my fair share of anime, that always makes references in as well. But it's a very stunt-driven kind of series and shows, and you get a lot of cool movements. I'm on Twitter now, so maybe a few people will hit me up and just say, did you intend this? Did you not?
I think it's so important though to have inspirations that aren't just other games. Like if you were someone looking to work in animation, like being able to draw on all these different sources of creativity, from like a wide range of games, shows, cartoons, I think really helps build a nice portfolio of work.
Yeah, I mean the most important thing is to have as most diverse a kind of a foundation of studies for you to pull research from, and there's going to be a lot of things you pull research from that you don't specifically like, so you wouldn't have normally looked up for them. But like I once had an art director of mine always say, from occasionally like buy a magazine or something you don't like and just try it and read through it and learn some things. Watch a film or video or something that you wouldn't normally watch, a foreign movie or something. You might find something that's good inspiration from that. At the very least, you're broadening your horizons, and the more experiences you have, the more things you can bring to the table with your work.
We're also here to talk about the newest pet joining the AdoptMe family, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, the Kitsune.
Kitsune. Kitsune.
I always say Kitsune. My Japanese is self-taught, so that could always be wrong.
So this, as I understand it, was a joint idea between you and Derek, right?
Yeah, so we pitched a couple of ideas back and forth, and then as most things kind of go, you're talking about stuff, and then you throw a couple of inspirations, like, oh, I really like this version of the Kitsune that was done in Digimon. Or he gives a different one that was done from like a meme, and we look at it and we suddenly start chatting about something completely different, and then we're like, okay, we both really like this, so this has to be the new one that we've done. And then we're going through it and we suddenly talk about, it's a lot of tails, should we cut back on that? And I'm like, no, let's just do it anyway. Obviously you're just going to copy animation from one tail to the next. Like, no, I'll animate them all by hand and make them perfect. We come up with really good ideas, and then it dawns on us later the amount of work we've put through for ourselves.
Yeah, it's really cool to be able to talk about this stuff. One of the questions we get a lot on our social media is people asking who comes up with the ideas, and genuinely it's the team. There's no one ideas person creating stuff. Like, this was just a fun project that you and Derek put together yourselves, presented to the team, and is now about to be in the game.
No, it's always a collaboration of quite a few people, but it's hopefully should never feel like it's a pet generated by committee, like you might get in a company that's aiming for a specific result. We want something that's fun, provides a challenge and a benefit for the game as well as the player. We want it to be cool, but we don't want it to be, oh, we're gonna follow this this really popular thing that's happening. We want it to be unique and fun, and very much in the spirit of the game.
Talking about the tales a bit more, what were the unique challenges that you realised you were facing once you decided to create the Kitsune?
Upwards of 6 times extra animation time. There are a lot of really cheap ways you could go with something like this to make it quickly. You know, you can think, oh, a tail will do this. So I'll just copy that animation from each tail to the next, and you know, maybe add a little offset or something just so each tail moves. I'm guilty of doing that sometimes, but I really wanted to add personality, and I wanted tails to always be physically aware of where other tails were, so they clip into each other as little as possible, and they always keep their volume. It looks like there's a big bushy bunch of tails that are flopping around, and you know, correctly flick back and forth when they need to. It's challenging. It can get a bit mundane, but I always try to think of the end result of what I want something to look like, and I'm hoping by the tricks especially that you see that kind of stuff. You see the detail. There's a couple of flips where you see the tails all extend nicely in different directions. They flicker a bit. They have little flicks of personality in them that took actually going to fix them one by one to get that right result that I wanted. And you know, if people appreciate those animations, then it's worth it.
So which animation from the Kitsune is the one you're most excited for players to see?
There's one that has the Kitsune jumping into the air and then smashing down there. I guess in the spirit of a ground pound you might see in like any action game, where it kind of flicks its tail like it's cracking the whip to fly down. It's a very old reference to the Saturday morning Sonic cartoon.
Yes.
There's a character, you'll see it, that did the same thing. They call it cracking the whip, and she'd flick her tail, and then that would be how she'd accelerate. So I kind of took something like that from any, you know, and laid it on top of any third-person action game that does the same thing. Control, Journey, Anthem, they all have things like that.
That sounds really cool, and it'll be even better because people listening to this, I'll have just put that video on screen, so they'll have just seen it as well.
It's the best of the Sonic cartoons, certainly worth your time. Just
completely diverting from the Q&A. I'm such a huge Sonic fan. Did you watch any of Sonic Boom, like the recent CG cartoon?
Yes. The writing quality of the series, it's episodic. It's like a silly little sitcom, but it's sharp, it's funny, it doesn't pander to children, and I really appreciate it for that. And there's not many shows you can really think of in this day and age now that you can't, you know, you think about, have kind of a wholesome look at children as, we're not going to pander to them, we're going to use not adult writing, but we're going to use grown-up writing that requires concentration to get the joke, and that's important.
Are there any animals that you'd really like to animate in the future for an AdoptMe release, either as a Robux pet or in a future egg?
It might not necessarily be AdoptMe friendly, but I really wanted to do a behemoth. And that's something I've mentioned to the team quite a bit in the past. There've been cutesy versions of it we could use as inspiration. I'd be wrong as well if I didn't put a shout out to my little boy. He's 4 and he really wants to have a shrimp in the game as well.
Oh, that'd be cool. We're going to wrap this up, but I can't let you go without asking you one final question.
Okay.
Be honest with us. Which AdoptMe pet is your favourite?
Oh, that's a tricky one.
It's tough. We struggled with this one when we first decided we were going to come out with our favourites. We pushed each other a lot on this one.
Oh, I'm actually struggling to think without them all in my head.
I'll tell you right now, my favourite is the turtle. I think you did an incredible job on the animations of that. It's the first pet I fell in love with when I started working on AdoptMe.
I want to say turtle, but I also know it's fresh in my head at the moment from our discussion on it earlier. I know what pet I would instinctively go to, but I don't believe it has been released, so I'm not going to say it.
Say it and I'll bleep it out. Oh, what? My favourite part about a new pet being released is seeing what you'll have done with it, seeing the personality you've given it.
That's part of the thing as well. So I help Z by doing the social renders you see that have the pets on a little square and they do the tricks, because I wanted people to be able to actually get a good look at the animation, especially if they might not necessarily see it in game or the camera angle doesn't give you a great look at it. But it also lets everyone get a good look at the pet prior to release too, so they can see the kind of stuff that's going to be going on.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for taking time out of your incredibly busy work day. I know we've got this new pet releasing, we've got a new egg on the way. I know there's a lot of time pressure on you and a family to look after as well.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, like many other families I'm sure at the moment, we're very much bunkered down. Our kids aren't, they're at school. I get to flex the home teaching muscles. It's challenging in a different way, but also quite fun.
I can imagine. conversation. Thank you so much for stopping by today. Thank you very much. I'm really excited to see the Kitsune release and see all our players playing with it over the coming weeks, and I'm really excited for the new egg.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I hope everyone enjoys it. This new egg specifically is, we've had a lot of time to put lots of extra personality into every animal that's there. So I hope you all enjoy them all, and let me know your favourites, and if our dear Lord Jesse deems it allowable, a Twitter link for me might be in the feed, so you can follow me and ask me questions when the time comes and we release it.
Absolutely.
If you can get what animation inspirations there are.
Follow David on Twitter. The links will be on screen. There'll be a clickable link in the description as well. He has a lot of cool stuff to say.
Yeah, I have a very random Twitter feed as well, which has lots and lots of the various pets I have. I have a zoo's worth of pets in my house and around the house, so don't come to me for important questions, because I know nothing, but I do know animation, so I can at least answer that.
Thank you very much, David.
You're welcome. I had a Japanese teacher, he was Scottish, so...
That must have been an interesting accent.
Yeah, everything always felt like a bit more overpronounced.